Hello, YouTube and Whipper Club fans. It's me, Fruit Taco, coach of the Route 1 Burbs, here to welcome you to the first feature match of the WCL's 12th season. This season is our first of Gen 9, so I'm excited to share with you some great matches showcasing the new Pokemon and mechanics. To start things off, we have the Kanto Kinglers facing off against the Close Combat Club. So without further ado, let's look at how these teams stack up against each other and then get into the match. The Kinglers have a roster of Salazzle, Salamence, Crocodile, Lokix, Slitherwing, Gyarados, Gardevoir, Toxtricity, Corviknight, Gothitelle, and Slowbro, going up against the Close Combat Club's Noivern, Iron Treads, Palafin, who cannot Terrastalize, Volcarona, Rotom Frost, Grimmsnarl, Dunsparce, Iron Hands, Rabsca, Quagsire, and Amoonguss. The club definitely has a speed advantage here, with 4 Pokemon at or above base 100 compared to only 2 on the Kingler side, along with 4 bug resists to counter the powerful first impressions coming from Lokix and Slitherwing. I can see the Kinglers trying to go after the club's flying and fire weaknesses with Pokemon like Salamence, Gyarados, and Salazzle, or maybe even going after the rock weaknesses with someone like Crocodile. For the club, expect them to go after the Kingler's big rock weakness with Iron Treads, Iron Hands, and maybe something like a Terra Rock Volcarona. Overall in this matchup, I'm favoring the Close Combat Club, who have great walls, speed, and offensive options here to put out steady pressure against their opponent, but I think the Kinglers have some tricks in their bag that could really shake up the match. With that overview out of the way, though, let's look at what the coaches actually ended up bringing to the match. The Kinglers' first Pokemon is Gardevoir, running a setup variant with Substitute, Salackberry, and Calm Mind. The Dark Terra type seems strange. Maybe it could be to protect it from Grimmsnarl's status moves once it's already set up. Next, we have Intimidate Gyarados, running Dragon Dance and 3 attacks, with an Eopapa Berry for longevity. Terra Ground and Earthquake let it flip the matchup on Iron Hands at the cost of losing its defensive value against Palafin. Choice Band Lokix makes for a strong wall breaker with double stab priority options, a U-turn, and Trailblaze to hit Quagsire. Terra Bug and Tinted Lens mean those first impressions could be devastating even against Pokemon that resist them. Crocodile is coming with Intimidate, Stealth Rocks, and 3 attacks as well as a Focus Sash. This looks like it could be a lead set to get up hazards, or maybe it could bait out a Wave Crash from Palafin, live on the Focus Sash, and then KO it back after recoil. Although I doubt we'll be seeing it use its Terra Ground to boost up those Earthquakes here. Choice Scarf Toxtricity is running double paralysis options in Discharge and Nuzzle to help slow down its opponents, as well as Volt Switch and Boom Burst for utility. Terra Electric will make those discharges stronger, but I'd have liked to see Overdrive to get the Punk Rock boost as well, or Terra Normal to add Stab to Boom Burst. Lastly, we have Max Defense Slowbro with Trick and a Lagging Tail. Chilling Water, Future Sight, and of course Slack Off make this a very annoying mon to let sit around, with Terra Psychic boosting up those Future Sights. Switching over to the Close Combat Club, we start off with a very fun double dance to Dunsparce with Coil, Agility, Roost, and Serene Grace boosted Rock Slides, boosted further by Terra Rock. The Bulk and Lumberry should give it time to boost up and become a real headache for their opponent. Next we have a standard dual screen Grimmsnarl set with Spirit Break and Parting Shot and Terra Ghost? Not quite sure what that's for, but I don't expect to see it Terra anyway. Specially defensive Iron Hands has an Assault Vest to boost that bulk even further. Terra Electric removes its Psychic weakness and boosts up its Wild Charges for something like taking on the Slowbro. This week, Palafin, who cannot Terrastalize, is running Choice Scarf with Flip Turn, Wave Crash, and then Body Slam and Ice Punch as coverage. Rotom Frost is coming with Boots, Nasty Plot, and very spammable dual stab options, with Terra Electric combining with Levitate to potentially give it no weaknesses to hit. And lastly, we have Max Defense Quagsire with Rocks, Yawn, Recover, and Liquidation as its only attacking option. Unaware will make it the go-to answer for any setup mons, and Terra Fire could let it be a surprise bug or fairy resist. Well, that's who's coming on both sides, so let's jump into the match and see how it all went down. Okay, here we are in the battle. Looking at this team preview, Grimmsnarl is going to be a huge asset for the Close Combat Club, getting to set up screens to reduce damage from U-turns and Toxtricity's unresisted Boom Burst. That Rotom looks real good too, and the Kinglers are going to have to be very careful making the right switches around it. On the Kingler side, pressure from the Lokix is going to be huge, getting off big U-turns for damage and positioning. Dual Intimidate and that Slowbro should let them weather a lot of the physical attacks, but they're going to need to watch out to not get caught on a switch. Going to turn 1 here, we see Crocodile and Grimmsnarl come out, and you can see they're just going to set up rocks and reflect like you might expect. Light Screen comes up as well as Earthquake does a little bit of damage. Parting Shot comes out and fails as Crocodile chooses to just stay in and get off more damage. The Dunsparce is going to come in now, and it's going to catch a close combat, probably meant for the Rotom, who would be immune to Earthquake. Another close combat brings the Dunsparce low, but it's just going to roost off that damage and even more. Crocodile switches into Gyarados to get off and Intimidate as the Dunsparce roosts back up to full. Now Slowbro is going to come in as the Dunsparce finally starts setting up its coils. A second coil up for the Dunsparce, but it gets tricked a Lagging Tail as Reflect now wears off. Future Sight from Slowbro will hit after Light Screen goes away, but the Dunsparce is free to keep coiling up. Chilling Water here will drop the Dunsparce's attack, negating some of those coil boosts as it keeps coiling. The Dunsparce is going to find itself in a bit of a stalemate here as Chilling Water keeps negating its coils as Future Sight comes and brings it quite low. The Dunsparce's attack is almost back to neutral as it's forced to roost back up to a little over half. Future Sight gets set back up as the Dunsparce starts building its attack back up. After all these coils and Chilling Waters, +1 Rock Slide doesn't do a lot of damage, and it can't flinch because of that Lagging Tail. Slowbro is probably going to win this matchup as it keeps getting these Chilling Water and Future Sights stalling out all of these roosts. The Dunsparce is finally below neutral attack, but that Rock Slide barely does anything. Dunsparce is trying to maintain its attack, but Future Sight here is going to bring it in range of another Chilling Water. Finally, the Dunsparce goes down, and Quagsire comes in to replace it. I'm a little confused as to why John stayed in with the Dunsparce for so long. It seems like he could have gone into Rotom Frost as long as he avoided the Future Sight to get in pretty big damage, and 77 to 92% from Thunderbolt. I understand wanting to preserve it as much as possible as an offensive win condition, but breaking Slowbro seems like its most important job in this match. Anyway, well, here's Quagsire, probably going to set up its own rocks in a second. I really like the trick play here, getting leftovers onto Slowbro, and Quagsire chooses to go for Yawn first over the rocks. Michael chooses to set up a Future Sight and let Slowbro fall asleep here as Quagsire now gets up those rocks. Both coaches are actually going to switch here into Lowkicks and Grimmsnarl, who will be looking to set back up those screens. But he actually switches back out into Quagsire, and the U-turn comes out, going into Gardevoir, and Future Sight is actually going to hit here and leave that Quagsire on just 1%. Instead of going for the KO, Gardevoir sets up a sub, which lets Quagsire recover up to half. Gardevoir sets up a Calm Mind against Unaware Quagsire, which uses Liquidation to take out the substitute. Now, this seems like a big misplay, but I don't think it's as crazy as it actually sounds. Psychic and Moonblast both do over half to Quagsire, so even if the Quagsire recovered back up, Gardevoir would still be able to handle it. Unfortunately, Quagsire broke the sub, so Guard will be vulnerable to a Revenge Killer now. Rather than going for Calm Mind, I think Michael probably should have just spammed Moonblast behind that sub. It would kill the Quagsire and two-shot basically anything else except Iron Hands, which is a coin flip to two-shot anyways, and you'd still be behind a sub to hit something if the Quagsire does stay in and die. Setting up here isn't nearly as bad as it may look when you see someone setting up directly across from an Unaware Mon, but probably still wasn't the best play. Guard is going to go for another substitute as now Quagsire is just going to heal back up to full. Another Calm Mind goes up as the sub gets broken again, and now it's starting to look bad for Guard. Another substitute will proc the Slack Berry, but I don't think that's going to do much as the sub just gets broken again. Psychic does a little over half, and the Guard goes down to Liquidation, which is going to bring out Low Kicks. While the initial Calm Mind was reasonable, the rest probably weren't. I'm wondering if Michael just missed that he traced Unaware and thought that the Quagsire might have been Water Absorb. It's not impossible for it to have Water Absorb given the Slowbro and Gyarados in the matchup, but even so, Palafin is almost certainly going to have a priority move or a Choice Scarf, so going to all this trouble to set up Gardevoir probably wasn't going to pay off if it couldn't stay behind a sub. Anyway, here Low Kicks reveals the Trailblaze, which is going to KO Quagsire, and now we're going to go into Iron Hands to revenge it. Lowkicks is going to switch out into Slowbro, who's going to take a Fake Out and Stealth Rock damage. John's going to take the opportunity here to switch into Grimmsnarl as Slowbro burns its first turn of sleep. Jeez. Reflect comes back up, and Slowbro ends up burning a second sleep turn. Parting Shot is going to bring in the Rotom here, as Slowbro actually wakes up and trades its lefties for Rotom's boots. Rotom sets up a nasty plot as Slowbro sets up another future sight. Thunderbolt easily one-shots, and Low Kicks is going to come back out, really accumulating that rocks damage. First Impression does decent damage behind Reflect, and while Low Kicks goes down here, Rotom is barely going to hang on after that future sight. Crocodile is out, and after the Intimidate here, easily picks up the KO, and we're going to now see Palafin out for the first time. Gyarados is going to switch in here, get the Intimidate off, resist that flip turn, and now Iron Hands is going to be right back out. Gyarados terastallizes here, but gets caught by Fake Out, giving away the surprise as it flinches. Crocodile switches in, gets off an Intimidate here, but Iron Hands actually goes for Play Rough and gets a crit to KO, which definitely mattered. Gyarados is back out now, another Intimidate, and it's going to start trying to Dragon Dance up. It's brought low with the Earthquake, but heals back up with its Berry. Grimmsnarl comes out, but Gyarados is going to set up another Dragon Dance. The extra dance means that Grimmsnarl gets that Reflect off, but it's going to go down to an Earthquake. Palafin out here, now 0 to hero. Earthquake does great damage behind Reflect, but Wave Crash is going to come out, and Palafin's barely going to survive. One last Wave Crash here is going to leave only Iron Hands left standing in this battle as the Close Combat Club picks up a win. Man, that was a close battle. The crit on Crocodile at the end was unfortunate, but I think the club still could have pulled off a win without it. We might have gotten to see a rare 0-0 victory, though. Regardless, that was an excellent match from our coaches. Thank you to the Kinglers and the club for giving us this one, and thank you to you for watching. I've been Fruit Taco, welcoming you here to the inaugural feature match of WCL Season 12, and I will see you next time for another exciting feature match.